Divorce is painful. It's a break, a shift, a severing of what was, and it impacts everyone involved. We are talking child-centered mediation and support during today's show. Hi, I'm Jen Maceda, your host of Woman2Woman Today, where we talk to inspiring women who are helping other women reach their goals and changing traditional industries and roles in a very positive way. On today's show, we will be talking with Jody Comins, a divorce and family mediator and collaborative coach. She uses her experience as an adult child of divorce to create a child-centered practice at A Better Way Divorce Mediation. Jody is a court-approved facilitator for the required parenting classes in Massachusetts and has an excellent blog series called Speaking Out: Voices of Adult Children of Divorce. Thank you for sharing your insight with us today. It's so timely in so many ways. And your practice, we were talking a little bit before the show, it wasn't your first stint in career, and It's not how you started out. Right. Tell us what happened.
So thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's
exciting to be here. So for 24 years, actually, I worked in the nonprofit Jewish community of Boston, doing a variety of things, mostly working with students on campus, promoting Israel, and doing nonprofit and fundraising. And then about 4 years ago, so I don't like to use the word work-life balance because there's no such thing as balance.
Right.
I've learned it's really more about harmony.
Okay.
So my life became unharmonious because well, my husband got a job in Boston, so he was commuting by the train, and one daughter went to school in Waltham, one was in Framingham, and I had a part-time job in Newton, and all of a sudden I couldn't manage everything I wanted to do. There were too many balls in the air, and they were falling on the ground, and I was trying to pick them all up. So I left my job. We decided that I could do that for a little while, and thought about what would be the next step. So I'm a social worker by training, and I thought actually about being an event planner, because I had done that, and I went to an event, actually at the Dream Factory, and someone told me, if you don't have both feet in, you're not going to be successful.
You won't be happy.
Yeah. And I went home and I said to my husband, I don't think this event planning thing is for me. I had one client, I had some collateral, and I helped her.
Yeah.
But I decided to take a divorce mediation course. I had done a class similar in grad school, and I took the course with all other mental health professionals, and we learned about the law and the finances and how to unpack assets and how to negotiate and how to be a mediator. And I then went on to take other courses, but basically I put up a shingle, got a client, and that was almost 3 years ago.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
So you are a child of divorce. You're an adult who, as growing up, when did that occur in your childhood?
Right. I was 3,
Okay.
3.5. My brother was 5.5, and my sister was 1.5. It actually was 46 years ago this month, maybe even today. I don't know what my parents' anniversary was because I was too young when they got divorced.
Yeah.
So it was just a part of my life. It wasn't. I didn't know anything different. I had my mom, I had my dad, and they were good friends for a long time. They fixed each other up. They had a divorce party, and it was an amicable divorce. Things happened in between in the last 46 years, and once we 3 children got married and started to have kids, they mended any difficulties they had in between. But I tell my clients on the first time that I meet them, and I tell people in the class that I teach, you have a choice to make now during this process about how you want it to be for your kids, if you have kids. And if you think ahead to your kid's wedding, do you want to be able to walk them down the aisle together? And how will they feel standing between you? Are they going to be uncomfortable? Because if it's their wedding day, they're not going to want to feel uncomfortable. So make a choice. If you want it to be amicable, you don't have to like each other. You don't have to respect each other. Right. But to be able to get along enough and talk to each other and keep the negative pieces outside of the arena that your children are in, it's going to be better for your kids today, tomorrow, and in the long run.
What a great question. I mean, because it's painful right in the moment that you are getting a divorce, that you're going through that entire process of assets, division of everything in your life. You're not necessarily thinking about 10, 15 years, or even 5 years, 3 years. It's an immediate, I need to fix this right now.
Right.
But that really puts it into perspective for people.
Right. So the thing is that 75% of children who come out of a divorced family are going to be fine. They're going to be fine. Maybe not right this minute, but in life they'll be okay. The 25% of kids who don't do well, are coming out of high conflict divorces. And that goes for kids who live in high conflict marriages too. I mean, those kids are going to have more difficulty later in life. And another fun statistic, 75% of kids live in non-traditional families. So only 25% of kids live this in America, with a mom, a dad, 2.5 children, a white picket fence, and a dog.
Wow.
You know, so the other 75% have.
That's a huge statistic.
Yeah.
And that sounds like that's a pretty recent statistic, within the last 10 years, or
Probably
has it just slowly,
think about it. Some people are raised by a grandmother.
Right.
There's death, you lose a parent. You have a single parent, you have two moms, you have two dads, you have blended families, you have second marriages, you have third marriages.
Right.
So
different now than when I was growing up, for sure.
Yeah. When I was growing up, we were really one of the only families that had divorced parents. And, you know, other men were wary of my mom, or the women were wary of my mom. She was cute, she's still cute, she's little and blonde, and was she gonna come in and steal their husband?
Right.
Or the men were wary, is my wife gonna wanna go get a divorce because they did?
Yes, is it like a disease that I'm gonna catch? And it's gonna,
and people still feel that way.
Yes.
There is still a lot of shame and embarrassment around divorce for grown-ups and for kids.
Right. But you said something really key. Both parents essentially want the best for their kids. They might be angry right now at their ex, but they will do what it takes. Do you find that both parents, are you coaching them to understand, hey, okay, that's great, you want all of these assets, but let's remember that the kids need to be the focus. How do you do that in your sessions?
Right. Well, let me start first with the parenting class. So the parenting classes were created in Massachusetts by the court. They're required. And they wanted to keep people from coming back into court over and over after divorce because they can't figure out who gets Jimmy on Wednesdays, and they want to change their parenting plan, or they're just fighting about things. And the parenting class is really a communications class. So how do we get along and talk to each other about raising our children together? And so we teach that you want to look at the other person almost like a business partner, right? So we don't have a romantic relationship anymore, but we work together.
Yeah.
And
now, is this a required class?
In Massachusetts, it is a required class.
To get a divorce, you need to take this class when?
If you have children,
or
before.
Before you
file your
signed.
papers.
Okay.
Yeah, you get a certificate and everything.
Okay.
So the idea is that, if you're my business partner and our product is our child, and we want to raise a great child, we need to know how to communicate.
Sure.
So just like at work, if we were working together and I noticed that you finished the coffee, would I come running into your office yelling, Jen, I can't believe you finished the coffee?
Right.
Or would I use a more respectful way of talking to you? So we teach them tips and tools on how to communicate, and particularly with somebody that you have trouble getting along with, or if somebody who sends you into fight or flight every time you're together.
Right.
So then I use those same tips and tools
Too bad they
in
didn't
my
take
practice.
Those before before they got into their relationship. I mean,
you need a license for everything.
Yes.
You need a license to be a manicurist, a garage mechanic,
you should get a license to get married.
You do, but there's all you need is a birth certificate.
Right.
Yeah. So the Catholic Church does do a course right. And I think, I've thought about this a lot. Wouldn't it be great if other people did this course?
Oh, yes.
And I would say that, I don't have any statistics on this, but I think that when you have kids, you put your relationship on the back burner because you are taking care of your baby. And as a woman, you're nursing and you're getting affection and touch and everything from your baby. And maybe you push your husband away a little bit. And if you don't spend the time on your relationship as a couple in between each baby, you're going to lose. You're going to lose that loving feeling. You are, because you're all focused on your kids, and maybe it takes you 5, 7, 10 years, 20 years to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I think, I've thought about this a lot, but I think having a class when you are pregnant, and it's not just a birthing class, but it's how do you also keep your relationship so that after you have kids, you're still dating, and still working on yourselves.
Yeah. So what are some of the issues that specifically women bring to you through the negotiation process? Because although it sounds like, I just read a McKinsey study the other day, it sounds like we're negotiating more in the workplace, but not effectively, because we're still not being equitably paid at this point. So
So there's a couple of things. So women often are not the financial person in the house, and so they feel that they don't have the information that they need to be able to understand what their assets are to then be able to decide how they want to divide them. It's funny though, because in my house, I actually run all the finances and my husband has no idea about any of it. And so I try to equal the playing field for those women by letting them know they're not dumb. They just like we each take on.
They were doing other things.
They were doing other things, and we each take on the roles usually that we're good at, and it doesn't mean they're not good at it. Maybe their husband was better at it.
Right.
The other thing I'll tell you, a secret about negotiation, is that when two people are fighting, they're holding onto a position, right? Like I really want this couch. This is my couch. And you say, no, I really want that couch. That's our position. When you start to negotiate, the mediator's job is to unpack what your interest is. Why is the couch so important to you, Jen?
Why do you want that?
What do you love about that couch? And you might say, I love to watch football on that couch with the kids, and that's where I sit every Sunday. And if I don't have that couch, I'm going to really miss the kids when I watch football. And I might say, well, it's where I don't even know. It's like where I like to watch TV also with the kids. Whatever it is.
Yes,
it's our interest. And if I hear your interest and you hear my interest, then maybe we understand each other a little bit better. And I might say, you know what? It's more important to you that you have the couch to watch football with the kids.
Right.
I'm going to let you have the couch, but I want the yellow pillow, whatever.
Right. So you give and take and balance.
But that's true for all negotiation.
Sure.
Not just divorce, but anything. It's like, why? Why is this important to you? So you can go back and forth a lot on the position, and that's where we get stuck. I need to have the couch. No, I need to have the couch.
Yeah.
You got to get deeper.
Yeah. Okay, well, when we come back, we are going to be talking about communication, because that is a huge, and then you've got a couple of tips that you're going to share with us, and we're really excited to hear about that. So come right back. We'll see you soon. And we're back with Jody Comins, divorce mediator and entrepreneur. So Jody, before we left for break, we were talking about the very different relationship now that partners have. It's not a love relationship anymore. The love has sailed. It's now a business relationship. So how do you coach partners through becoming something completely different?
Right. So it's important to remember that even if you don't like each other, you have to work together, right? And we've all had people in our jobs that we may not like, and we still have to work with them. I tell my kids all the time when they're on a project, you know what? It's just life. You're not going to like everybody. So now that you have a business relationship with this person, you have a product, that's your kid, you're trying to raise them well, is just remembering to put your kids at the forefront. So there was a case I did in court that the couple was arguing about where Billy should play basketball, and husband lived in Worcester, wife lived in Framingham, and they each didn't want to drive back and forth from Worcester to Framingham, and so ultimately they settled on Northborough. And the problem was that Billy didn't know anybody in Northborough, so he was the loser in that equation. And so what I do with couples is just, as we're working out parenting plans and figuring out what they're doing, is encourage them to always keep the kids at the front. Even when you're writing a child support check, right? Both parents pay child support towards their kids.
Right.
One pays a check to the other, and it feels yucky. And I've heard some terrible stories about parents handing it without an envelope to a kid. Here, give this to mom, or other things. And remember, like, you're writing that check for the benefit of your children. It's not so that your wife is getting a manicure and going on a vacation. It's so that she can have a home that is somewhat equal, both houses. One shouldn't be a hovel and one is a mansion just because you got a divorce. You should live on somewhat equal footing.
That is so, I have heard, and we've had tons of friends that have gone through divorce with children, and I hear all the time the hatred and the negativity that really clouds their judgment, clouds their ability to do what's right for their children.
Right.
And so it's great that you say so they're the loser, you gotta keep them focused. But during that mediation session, what are the strongest tips that you give? Remembering the child. I hear that central through through everything you've said right now. What else do you say? Because I wouldn't want to shake them. So, which you don't. So that's why you're in this business. And you're really good at staying neutral, as you said.
Right. So it's really important. So the mediator is a neutral party. And our job is to help a couple divide their assets, their liabilities, and if they have children, to create a parenting plan. That's it. There are 20 to 25 things you have to do in Massachusetts to get a divorce, and they're all in there. So tips, just really, besides the kids, is so if it's a high conflict, right? If there's a lot of conflict, there's something called BIF. So it's a way of communicating with each other. So sometimes people, don't respond to a text. So I might text you over and over again. Can you pick Billy up at 5 o'clock on Saturday? And you stonewall me. You don't answer. And how am I supposed to make my plans? Right. So one of the things we talk about is how to respond in a way that is brief, informative, firm, and friendly. And that takes all the, you're such a, and I can't believe you, and how come you don't, and why wouldn't you, and can you pick Billy up at 5? And your response is, yes, I'll pick Billy up at 5. Thank you.
Yeah.
Done.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, and somebody asked, why do I have to be friendly? We said, again, in a business relationship, at work, would you not sign off on an email?
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
So you don't have to. Look, it's your relationship. Right. You can do what you want. But if you want your kids to have a sense of a good, happy relationship, even though it's a divorce, you can have a happy divorce. My in-laws have a lovely, very happy divorce. They're great friends. They celebrate birthdays together. They live on a little island in Maine, and we do everything with them together.
Yeah.
So.
Well, what do the kids say? I mean, because you don't really know the impact on the child while you're going through this divorce, because you shouldn't be using them as an emotional crutch, right? So you're not hopefully crying in front of them, and you're not, bad-mouthing your previous spouse in front of them. And what do the kids say? There's got to be research that says you've mentioned some statistics. They're better if you're friendly. Right.
Conflict. Nothing's ever conflict-free, but less conflict. So I do write a blog on adult children of divorce that I've been working on. Thank you. So it has sort of 6 tiers right now, one of them being parentification. And so I interviewed 50 adults whose parents got divorced at different stages of their life. And the hardest thing for kids is when they hear their parents fighting. And I tell people, your kid can be in the basement with headphones on playing Xbox. And if you're upstairs fighting, the energy in the house changes. Right. And fighting is not always, I hate you. Fighting is sometimes, you walk in the room and I do this. And if your kids see that, what do they feel? Yeah. There's tension. Kids know. Kids have a very high antenna for those kinds of things. Yeah. So it's explaining to people that fighting is sometimes passive and quiet, and the damage that can have on kids. You mentioned not crying in front of kids. So it's actually okay to cry in front of kids. You can be sad. Yeah. It's too much emotion that's difficult for kids to handle, particularly small children. So we always say, make sure you're taking care of yourself, whether that's going to yoga, going out with a friend, getting a mani-pedi, going for a run. But if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your kids. Like the oxygen mask on the plane, put it on yourself first. Yeah. So that's a big tip that we give, is really take care of yourself. Because when you're getting a divorce, it's like running a marathon or a triathlon, and your brain, like your frontal cortex is hijacked by, there's a whole psychological piece that happens. And so you're in a vulnerable state all the time. And so taking care of yourself, watching your kids, making sure they're okay, so that if they need counseling, you get it for them. Right. Letting schools know, letting coaches know, letting friends know.
That's interesting, because it gives them a level of compassion and support too.
Yeah. Yes. Well, also because your kids might be holding it together for you. Like, I'm fine, Mom. Don't worry about me. Right. And then they're on the hockey ice and they're having a fight, and the coach is like, "What's wrong with Billy?" Yeah. But he knows you're getting a divorce. He calls, and instead of just benching Billy, he calls you and says, I can see he's having some trouble, and I just want to be your partner in this.
That's great.
So everybody's on your team, and forget the shame and the embarrassment. Right. 50% of couples get divorced. It's a little lower in Massachusetts, but a lot of people do it. And so the shame and embarrassment that you didn't succeed, that it didn't work out, you have to put to the side and move forward for the sake of your kids. I mean, that's really what it's about.
You mentioned a parenting plan. You also mentioned not fighting in front of your children. That is obviously very critical for families that are going through a divorce. But it's really critical for families that are not going through a divorce too. I mean, this parenting plan and, you know, not getting angry in front of your kids and not, you know, like keeping it separate from what you're doing in support of your children. Right. Can you start doing some training on that?
But I think, okay, so by the way, I've heard from so many people that they were blindsided by their parents' divorce because their parents never argued in front of them. So I don't think you shouldn't argue in front of your kids, because if you can argue and show your kids that you love each other and you resolved your argument, because conflict is not always negative. No. Conflict leads to resolution. Yes. And if you're able to argue and each share your side, and why is it important that you do whatever, like that you have roast beef for dinner, whatever you're fighting about, and then your kids see you resolve it, they see that's okay. Because people who parents got divorced and they never saw them fight were like, and they come into relationships, and if they have a fight, they don't know how to fight.
Right. And they think, okay, well, if we're fighting, we must mean we need to get a divorce.
Everybody fights. Yes. There's a difference between disagreeing and fighting.
Yeah, that's what we tell the kids.
Yeah.
That's what we tell them. Well, hopefully we're doing everything.
And it's okay. I mean, we all disagree. We have our own thoughts and feelings about what we want. And the parenting plan is what used to be called custody, right? Okay. So it used to be called visitation. Yeah. So you had visiting. We don't visit with our parents, right? If your parents are divorced, you have two homes, whether you spend 50-50, 40-60, 30-70. Yeah. So the parenting plan is, when do you go to which house? How much time are you spending in each place? And depending on how old the kids are, you may want to revisit that parenting plan over time, because, you know, as kids get to be teenagers, I know your kids are younger. I have teenagers. They don't want to be with you anyway, whether you're married or divorced. And I'm happily married, but my kids are still, you know, they get home, they lock themselves in their room. That's what teenagers do.
Yeah. You also mentioned support, and women in particular needing to surround themselves by positivity. And you are part of this really phenomenal group of women called the Polka Dots. Share what that program has done for you, especially going through a career transitioning and being successful now.
Oh, thank you. So about a year into my change in career, I discovered Polka Dot Powerhouse, which is a women's connection company. It's a global company. We're all over the country, in Canada and around the world. And so last summer, 2016, I met somebody who had started a chapter here in Massachusetts, and I joined her chapter and then decided to start a chapter here in Framingham. So we are the Metro West chapter. We launched in February. We're now the second biggest chapter in the country with 108 members. That's awesome. Thank you. Many of us just came back from Denver. We had a big celebration there, and we were recognized for achieving great things here. And the piece about empowering is that we are women supporting other women. So if you identify as a woman, you are welcome to be in our group. If you are an entrepreneur, stay-at-home mom, retiree, have a job, whatever you do, it doesn't matter.
And it's not just about business.
It is not just about business. It started as a business connection group, and it has shifted. In our chapter, I think I'm proud, because we've done a really good job of making people from all walks of life feel welcome. Our youngest member is 23 years old. She just graduated college, and our oldest is in her 70s.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need more of that.
We do need more of that. Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you for what you do. Thank you for sharing divorce mediation, but also just mediation and negotiations within relationships, because I think there are many tips that we can all take into our lives, whether we're going through that or not. So
my pleasure.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you, Jody.
Thank you.
So we are grateful for this conversation, and we hope that you've learned a lot. Please remember to follow, like, and subscribe to Woman2Woman Today on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, so you don't miss a show. Thanks to the entire team at Access Framingham, especially Shavarsh Morrissey and Francesca Cerruti Harris. Thanks also to Jess Friswell, our assistant producer. I'm Jen Maceda, your host of Woman2Woman Today. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time, where we hope to inspire you.